Several of my viewers asked questions about the tire pressure monitoring system in the new hybrid Sienna that prompted me to do some research and my own hands-on testing to answer those questions and to satisfy my own curiosity. In this video, I share with you my best practices and tips and tricks for maintaining an optimal tire pressure and using the new Sienna tire pressure readings on a daily basis. Hello and welcome to Telvia. I rotated tires on our new Sienna a few months ago, for the first time at 5,000 miles as recommended by Toyota, to extend their service life and to inspect tires for nails or damage. In my new hybrid Sienna tire rotation video, I omitted to talk about the tire pressure monitoring system, or TPMS, and whether the initialization of TPMS following the tire rotation is required. A couple of my viewers, however, asked me whether it is necessary to reinitialize the tire pressure monitoring system after tire rotation and whether the pressure values are correctly detected and displayed on the Sienna's tire pressure display graphic after rotation. In other words, does the computer in the vehicle know that the tire positions have changed and account for the tire rotation when displaying the tire pressure? I was a little perplexed about the question and decided to investigate. The user manual is indeed confusing about when TPMS initialization is required. It states that the tire pressure monitoring system needs to be initialized after the TPMS sensors are replaced, like when you buy new tires with new TPMS sensors. But it is ambiguous about whether TPMS initialization is required after tire rotation. As far back as 1970, the U.S. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration looked into the benefits of low pressure warning equipment. A study from Indiana State University suggested that the underinflated tires were the cause of 1.5% of all motor vehicle crashes because the tires low on pressure hamper handling and braking on dry and wet roads. However, technology didn't exist to make such devices practical or affordable. The U.S. Congress passed the Recall Enhancement, Accountability and Documentation, or THREAD Act of year 2000, which mandated that all passenger vehicles weighing under 10,000 pounds sold in the U.S. as of September 1, 2007 be equipped with a direct or indirect tire pressure monitoring system that warns drivers if any of the tires on the vehicle are underinflated by 25% or more. Initially, most vehicle manufacturers used so-called indirect tire pressure monitoring systems and had their own timeline for converting to a direct TPMS system in various vehicle models. An indirect TPMS measures how fast the tires are rotating. A tire that has lost some air pressure rotates faster because the effective radius from the center of the wheel axle to the road is reduced. Measured this way, tire pressure loss triggers a tire pressure light on the dashboard. You must reset an indirect TPMS after tire rotation or tire inflation. Many of us may recall doing this type of reinitialization ourselves after a flat or tire rotation. Toyota vehicle owners with indirect TPMS, however, have to head to visit a dealer to inspect tires and reset the system, as it required a special tool. That may be one of the reasons long-time Toyota customers question whether the TPMS system reinitialization is still required on the new Sienna. I've heard that starting with 2018, all Toyota manufactured vehicles are equipped with a direct tire pressure monitoring system. However, I was not able to find a published confirmation of this date. A direct tire pressure monitoring system detects the absolute pressure and sends the data to the vehicle computer. Each sensor has a unique serial number which correlates to each tire, letting you know which tire is low. The battery of each TPMS sensor lasts about 10 years, so there is no need to buy new TPMS sensors if they are not damaged with every tire change. In the new hybrid Sienna, we have a graphic on the driver's display showing the tire pressure at each corner of the vehicle that tells us that the vehicle is equipped with direct TPMS sensors which allow for actual tire pressure measurement. However, like the viewers who asked the question, I still didn't know for sure whether after I perform the tire rotation, the computer in the van knows the actual locations of the tires on the vehicle, or just detects the same four sensors and reports their pressure values regardless of their location on the vehicle. To confirm that the direct TPMS is smart enough to know where each sensor is located on the van, I did an experiment. I deflated the front driver left tire by 8 psi down from the recommended inflation of 35 psi. When I turned the van on, the driver dashboard display showed a low pressure warning sign next to the correct front left tire on the display. Since in the last tire rotation, I rotated tires front to back on the same side, and the low pressure was detected on the front tire, this proves that the computer of the van keeps track of TPMS sensor locations without the need to do any reset of the system after tire rotation. My understanding is that the computer in the van has a directional antenna that detects the sensor ID and the strength of the signal from each sensor and translates those data to the sensor location on the vehicle shown on the display. That's pretty cool, huh? I reinflated the front left tire to 35 psi using my bike pump. With this pump, it takes about 12 strokes of the pump to increase Sienna's tire pressure by 1 psi. The TPMS system is designed to register the new pressure value in the vehicle after the van is driven for about 1.5 miles. The TPMS sensors in the tires have batteries that last up to 10 years, and to preserve the battery life of the sensors, are put into sleep mode when the van is parked. However, even when parked, the sensors wake up periodically to measure tire pressure and report it to the computer of the van, just in case the tires lose pressure when parked. I wanted to test how well this works. After I reinflated the test tire, I left the van parked in our garage overnight without taking the van for a short drive to reset the TPMS pressure readings. When I turned on the van next morning, the tire pressure graphic showed 35 psi in the left front tire. Voila! The TPMS system is working even when the van is parked. Proper air pressure, believe it or not, can reduce fuel consumption by as much as 3.3% according to the Department of Energy. It's great that we can keep an eye on tire pressure by simply glancing at the driver's display. Since TPMS system actually triggers a low pressure warning on the display only when the tire has lost about 8 psi or about 25% from the initial pressure, we might be driving with lower than optimum tire pressure for a while without noticing it. That's the reason I often switch my display options to view the status of the vehicle systems, including the current tire pressure. I read that some people who prefer to be forewarned about reduced tire pressure sooner than after a loss of 8 psi use the following trick with their TPMS system. First, they deflate all tires by about 25% to trigger the low pressure warning on all tires. Then reinflate all tires above the manufacturer specified pressure by, say, 3 psi, which for hybrid Sienna will be 38 psi. Then drive the van for a short distance to register the new baseline tire pressure. Following that, they deflate the tires by 3 psi back to the target pressure of 35 psi and drive the van normally. Now, because the system was reset to 38 psi baseline, it will trigger the low pressure warning light when the pressure is reduced to 30 psi rather than 27 psi. I personally don't recommend this approach. It's too laborious and it may be confusing. I just pay attention to the tire pressure on the display every time I start driving in the morning in the first mile or so before tires warmed up from driving. Always check your tire pressure when the tires are cold. The night before a long trip, I make sure to check the tire pressure on the driver's display, and if any are low, pump them to 35 psi. In my test, the tire pressure measured by a hand pressure gauge corresponds exactly to the tire pressure measured by the TPMS sensors. So if you don't have or don't want to use a tire gauge, you can rely on the tire pressure values on the display. Just allow a few minutes for the system to report updated pressure values after you've pumped up the tires. I hope you found this video interesting and learned something helpful. Thank you for watching. Until next time, cheers.